Let's get some functionality rolling in this video. We already created the initial layout. Let's put our button to work. So to add a click event on button, all you have to do is provide an on-click attribute on the button. As you can see, I have given a value of search Instagram when on-click is fired. Next, I can press Alt return key and it will ask me if I want to create this function in main activity. Just press return. And there you go. You will see the function automatically created for you. Now, only if they could have added all the code for us. So, time to write some logic. First, get your Instagram client ID from the Instagram website, which we have created in the initial videos. I have provided it as a static final string object on the top. You can add your client ID here. Next, I will create an array list to hold all the images inside it. I will download the images and convert them into bitmap and store it inside this array list. It's not a great solution, but for now it works. I will create an object for grid view, call it grid view. Also an object for edit text and call it search text. Next, to link both of these grid views and edit text to their elements in the layout file, you will have to call the function findViewById and provide them the IDs of those elements. Inside my search Instagram function, first I will clear the bitmap array. Since if the user clicks on the button again and again, I will have to clear the previous results. Let's put the URL together. Here I have created the download URL and provided the URL for API. Also, in second line, I am trying to access the text user entered in edit text search text by calling getText method. I will have to convert that into string since it's of the type edit text string. Now I can download the images in this function as this function runs on main application thread. Anything that might take time or any network operation should always be done in a separate thread, not on the main thread. Now Android provides a way to do this in an easy manner using a class called as async task. So let's create that and call it download images class. Here you see download images extends async task. Also it needs three parameters, but not the actual parameters, only the type. Since I am providing a string URL to this class, I will tell this class that the first parameter is of the type string, which is the input. Second parameter is for progress, and I will just say void since I will not be using it. The final item is the result, which also I have set to void since I will be saving the data inside my array list. There is an error, so I have to implement some methods. The only method we need to implement is do in background. This function runs in the background thread. It takes the string input from whoever is calling this class. Inside this function, let's take the input. If you see the arguments say dot dot dot, so that means the input is a list of items. And since I will be passing the URL only, let's get the first parameter and assign it to the URL string. Let's convert this string to URL since we will have to download data from a URL. This URL will ask us to add a try catch block around it for a malformed URL exception, which might occur if there's an error in the URL creation or typos. Next, I will create a connection to this URL, which will provide me the input stream and pass it to a buffered reader all in one step. So basically, what it does is connects to the URL, and once the connection is made, it will create a bridge, which is the input stream, and pass the data back to my application, which I will read into a buffered reader. I will have to add a few more exceptions, which is unsupported encoding and IO exception. What if there was no connection or the encoding that I have specified, which is UTF-8, is not right? But most of the web pages or web APIs use UTF-8. If it's not UTF-8, you would want to read the documentation for that API or email someone. From the reader, I will read the entire line of string of JSON and pass it to JSON string I created here. Now, to convert this huge string into something my Java code will understand, I will pass the string using JSON object class. I will create a JSON object for the entire string. Need another catch clause here for JSON exception. What if the JSON is not properly formatted? That's what this is for. So, if you see in in this JSON that we receive, we need to access the data element, which is an array of items, and from each item we need to images object which has thumbnail and then URL inside it, where we can find the URL for the actual image. So let's get the array using JSON array class and specify the object data where it belongs. Next, we can loop through the entire array and process one image at a time. So first, let's get the object I'm accessing, then get the images object from it, then the thumbnail, and finally we have the URL for the images using getString method. Once we have the string URL, let's convert it into URL class, create it a HTTP URL connection and connect it to the URL. Get the input stream and finally get the bitmap object from this input stream. Now that we have our bitmap object, let's push this into our array list bitmap array using the add method. Now that we have our bitmaps all in an array list, we have to provide it to a grid view. This can be done using an adapter. An adapter is something that you can set for a grid view and it automatically draws us the view. I mean, not automatically, you'll have to provide the structure. So let's create an adapter and make it belong to image adapter class. Let's create this class and make it extend base adapter. Base adapter is one of the built-in adapters provided by Android. We will customize our adapter based on base adapter. Now, have to add some methods. There are four methods we are interested in. Let's implement them. There we go. Inside this, I might need access to the context, which I can set to the current activity or pass it when I initialize the image adapter. So let's create a local variable of that and call it mContext. Let's create a constructor and make sure we pass the context and assign it to the local instance. The get context method needs to know how many elements we have. The get count method, which here needs to know how many elements we have. This is same as bitmap array, so we'll just say bitmap array dot size. Rest we can leave as it is, but let's go to the get view method. This method needs a view back, which means this is where we specify how each and every item in grid view looks like. If you see carefully, it has a position where it says which item it's drawing. Next is convert view, where when user scrolls up and down, the previous views are deleted and can be reused. So it's passed back to this function to check if you want to reuse them and save memory. And the last one is parent, where this adapter is used. Since I will be having images, let me create an image view and pass it back by using the return statement. So let's add some code. First, I'm checking here if the convert view exists, so I can reuse. If there is no convert view, that means it's the first time I'm creating objects or there is nothing available. So let's create the image view and set the layout parameters to be 200 pixels for width and height or DP. Also, I have set the image to scale based on the size if it's bigger by saying center crop. If the convert view is available, I just pass the convert view back. At the end, I have specified what image to use by picking it from the bitmap array using the position argument. Okay, now let's put this adapter to work. First, in onCreate method, let me initialize this adapter. It needs a context, so we'll pass an instance of main activity. Next, let's set grid views adapter to this adapter. Finally, let's call the download images async class to put everything in place. I have created an instance here, and to start the download you will have to call execute method by passing the URL we have. Also, let's set the grid view selection to index 0 so it scrolls all the way to the top when user searches for something new. Since we have added the adapter in onCreate method, we will have to notify this adapter that it's got data once download is done. This can be done in on post execute of async task. So let's add this method and notify the adapter along with invalidating all the previous views. This will clean up everything and will draw the new images. Let's run this application and search for Java, and there you go. Perfect. We can see all the images returned back. So here we got all the functionality working. In the next video, let's make sure our infinite scroll also works. We will constantly download images as and when user scrolls down the grid view.